Okay, guys, welcome to La Bóveda Podcast. This is the space where we open the book for survival horror and everything survival horror. And today we're going to be exploring a game that I've been following for a while. This project blends retro with modern, and it transports us to a post-apocalyptic South Korea. We're talking about Ground Zero, the new survival horror game from Malformation Games, and joining us, it's James. So here to share how this world was born, its secrets, and what players can expect when they try to survive this experience. So, James, welcome to La Bóveda Podcast.
Thank you very much, Joe. Glad to be here.
Hey, James, I when I saw Ground Zero, it's been a while, but when I saw the first time, it got me so pumped because it I don't know, there's something on the aesthetics about it, and this is something that I always share with the community. It's there are games that when you see the trailer, it automatically it captivates you. And when you see shots and stuff, I saw what came out on Fear Scene from Ground Zero. That was immediately. That's how I've been trying to get James in here. We finally got James in the show. So
finally got me. Yeah.
Can you introduce yourself and tell us how Malformation Games came to be?
Yeah. So I'm James. I'm one of many people from Malformation Games. We are a remote first team, but we're primarily set in Stockholm in Sweden. Malformation's been around since I think December 2020, so 5 years almost now. I've been working in the games industry for a while, and for various reasons, I wasn't really happy with how things worked in the industry, and I figured I want to start my own company, and I want it to be a place where people who are new to the industry can join and get their start, because I'd been in the industry for I think 9 years at that point, and it's the same people. Like I went to I think 3 or 4 different companies, and it's the same like revolving door of people. And I'm like, man, how are you actually supposed to get into this industry if you're not incredibly lucky? So I broke off, did my own thing, and we self-funded for a long time. And the idea was, people from all over the world who never worked in games before, maybe they do modding or maybe they do like game hacking, they can get there in. Especially people who geographically where they live, it's just not possible to get in, right? This was kind of when remote work was kind of happening.
Yeah.
And that really opened up a lot of doors for people, but it still wasn't fully established. So we have people from all over the world. And my own background is I've been doing games for a long time. I started on, this is going to reveal my age a little bit. I was making games on a Commodore 64, like little text adventure games with my brothers. And I loved it. Like we had like this huge book of programming in BASIC, and I would just like read it and read it and read it, and we'd make all these little games. My brothers kind of lost interest in it, and I never did. Then I found 3D, and it kind of escalated from there. As for Ground Zero, like that has been something I've wanted to make a game like Resident Evil ever since I played it in 1996. Like that game, like as soon as I played it, you talked about trailers when you feel something special. Also, just playing a game, you instantly know it's special. There's something about Resident Evil when I first played it, and I was like, man, I want to make something like this. And it took me a long time to get all the pieces together, get enough money to hire people and do things the right way. And that's how Ground Zero was born. We can maybe go over kind of more finer details later, but that's the long and short of it. We hire people to get into the industry, and we make horror games. Or at least horror flavored games.
That's interesting story, bro. Because it's like I get it. We've been talking with a lot of devs, and it's hard. It's hard, and the fact that you kind of like step up and said like, let me build a place for people to come and they can do. It's kind of like I can relate with what we do in La Bóveda, because I felt like, I don't know if you're familiar with this information, but like a very, very high percentage, and it was almost like 80% of the people that love survival horror games are neurodivergent. And that's why you choose that stimulus from horror games to actually be your fixation. So it was, I don't know, I felt it was a good thing to give them a place to be like a safe place. Like, come in here, let's talk about it, where you're not going to be like felt left out and stuff. Because usually what's happening around, talking with my one of my kids, he loved the genre too. He's like, well, I try to ask people about this, and usually people are playing other games. They
Mhm.
don't mind about this, at least the generation that's coming up. So we open up the door so I can relate, and for that, I think all the community that loves survival horror we can thank you for that. So now, moving forward, what's the origin story behind Ground Zero? What inspired it?
Yeah. So I guess if you've seen pictures or trailers, you know straight away, like, okay, this is clearly inspired in some way by
Yeah.
Resident Evil, right? That's like super clear. But yeah, it was really that with the team that we were originally working on a multiplayer horror game. We built like a prototype, and it was cool. But I think going back to what I said about new people in the industry, I realized this might be a little bit too much for us to tackle at the moment because multiplayer, especially like PvP, is not easy. It's not easy. So we pivoted to I mean, we all love horror in the team. I don't hire people because they like horror. It just happened to be that way, you know. Um, and my partner and my partner, she's behind a lot of the creative decisions in the game. She's not really in the spotlight. I mean, neither am I, to be honest. But we sat down at a cafe and we started talking. Okay, we're going to put this other game aside. What can we make? And the kind of skeleton of the story came together. We knew we wanted somewhere unique. That's why I picked South Korea. Because South Korea, like, it's so linked to horror, isn't it? Like, it's horror movies, ghost stories, legends, all that kind of stuff. It's so linked to horror, but there's not really that many games set in South Korea related to
Yeah.
horror, which is crazy to me. Um, so we really felt strongly about South Korea. And fixed cameras. I wanted to be a little bit of a nerd and flex a little bit. So our game, it's actually pre-rendered backgrounds, right? So the backgrounds are 2D, the characters are 3D, um, just like the old Resident Evils used to be. So it's a little mixture of like various different like urges or desires, kind of converged into Ground Zero. And then once the team found out about the project, I gave them the high level ideas started flowing. Everyone's got great ideas on the team. It's like a flat structure, right? So ultimately, I am in charge, but like I don't like anyone can contribute, right? Um, so some of the best stuff for the game came out of those like brainstorming ideas and like, what if this happened? What if that happened? So it's like a super collaborative effort.
Sounds
Yeah.
nice. Where, what were the core aesthetics, like narrative? I don't know, maybe the gameplay pillars you set on that early guided development.
So gameplay pillars, we wanted to kind of avoid just like simply copy pasting the formula that Resident Evil's done because we could never do it better than they could, right? That's the OG. You can't outdo that. So we figured, okay, I don't necessarily want to do just Resident Evil either. I love all kinds of games, so I'm going to put everything into a blender. Everyone else is going to put everything they love into a blender. We're going to mix it up into a smoothie, and we figured, like, I mean, you mentioned it yourself. Some of the younger people, they're not quite as into these things as maybe you
Mhm.
and I are. So there is a necessity to kind of switch things up a little bit. So we kind of added the genome point system, and I can explain what that is maybe a little bit later. And some more movement options like dodging and parrying and that kind of stuff. So we wanted it to feel like the skeleton of an old school game, but with the bone or the meat on it is a little bit more modern. Does that
Yeah.
make sense? Maybe it's a
Yeah.
bad analogy.
No, it is. It
Yeah.
is. It's one of the things that we've been talking a lot during the streams with the community. It's like, and I was talking to you. I can really say it like on the recording because I think this is gonna come before. But I'm working on a project where one of the things that I constantly mention and it repeats a lot, like this game is an example of on how you can pay homage or give your respects to the base that made this genre good in its beginnings, but at the same time putting their own fresh gameplay mechanics and maybe I don't know narrative point of view. The perspective on the character development is something that feels fresh, and I've been noticing. I was talking with the guys that I've been repeating that a lot, and it's just because it feels like people are actually not copy pasting, and it makes me super happy because one of the things that I don't hate a lot of stuff, but there's this places on the internet, I call them the dark corners of the internet, where people just go and throw poop on everything, right? And one of the things that I first thought it was bad, I don't know how even still to this day take this, but people write, oh, this is a Resident Evil clone. And when
Yeah.
I started talking with devs, I thought that was a bad thing, but there are some of them that actually, no, I want to do a Resident Evil clone. And I'm like, okay, that's good. So people on the other side, like fans, throw that as a bad thing. Like, oh, this is just a Resident Evil clone. This game is not original, whatever. But then it's like, bro, did you even play the game?
Yeah.
It's like now
Yeah.
now it's happening with Silent Hill. Like with, oh, this is a Souls game, which
Souls
is
clone, yeah.
it doesn't, like, I am a Souls guy and it doesn't feel like a Souls game. Maybe it has something like in the boss rush that makes you, but you can't just jump into that. Like, just go see how the story, unfolds, see the character development. If the character development is calling and evokes what it's happening at the moment, I can live with that. I don't, and then survival horror is so rich and it's branching so much nowadays that you have to like carefully walk that and be able to actually understand what's behind the game development. And that's one of the things that I love about this. It's like
Yeah.
you can jump in so deep into this kind of stuff. And Silent Hill is very special because it's psychological horror. It's different. All the things that you can do within using the mechanics or the background layout from survival horror, but using psychological horror on top, like they did, you can build great things. And there's so many ways you can go.
Yeah, for sure. Like that's a good example. I would imagine when whichever executives at Konami said, "Hey, Capcom's doing this thing called Resident Evil. That's popular. We got to do one of them." I would imagine that it probably, maybe they wouldn't have used the term Resident Evil clone, but probably in the very, very, very beginnings in the discussion between executives, they would have said something along the lines of, "We got to make our own version of this."
Yeah.
And that's a starting point, right? That's a jumping off point.
That's why one feels so different than two. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And it simply is not a clone of Resident Evil. Like Silent Hill 1 is
Yeah.
so uniquely different, like it evolved into something else. I don't mind the term Resident Evil clone. If that's the easiest way that people want to describe a game, fine. I see it as kind of like a neutral term, right? If it was a one-to-one Resident Evil clone, obviously with different characters and environments, then it would be a good game, right? Resident Evil has got good gameplay. So it depends really what you do with it. And, Heartworm as an example, people probably say that that's a Resident Evil clone. Now, that is just
No. It's so
not at all. Not at all. They see the fixed cameras, they see the kind of retro graphics, and they assume, oh, Resident Evil clone. It's just not. So
Heartworm is so beautiful, bro.
Yeah, it is.
Like it was very well crafted. I was looking very very highly. You have like if you saw the interview with Vincent, I told him you have games that within the indie horror scene that always are like highlights, right? And I think Heartworm just crawled up there I think it got big like very very fast, and there was a lot of people like me that were expecting the game, and it came out and it delivered, and that makes me super 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 happy. I'm looking forward to the Lacerator in October. I'm looking forward for Fleshmade Fear. There's a couple of games that are coming out that I'm looking forward. And of course, we've been expecting Night of Echoes of the Living, Ground Zero for a while. So survival horror fans are eating good.
Yeah, it's a good year. I mean, it was a good year this year. I think it's what happened last year. I think it was a good year last year. I think we've been on a bit of a horror streak, right?
Yep.
I actually can't remember. I don't know what happened in 2024, but I feel like it's been like a really good run for horror recently.
2024 is insane, bro. There's more than 20 titles. But this started in 20. I would say that 2019 was where it started like getting like, okay, this is solid, and started cramping up from that. But 2024 was great.
Yeah.
So I have in here Ground Zero. It's based in Busan after a meteor impact, right? you already went through why you chose the location, but can you build and maybe explain a little bit why the meteor impact?
Yeah, so the meteor impact was kind of a. Oh, by the way, that press kit is a little bit wrong. You start in Busan, but you actually go all the way through Korea to Daejeon,
Okay.
which is in like the middle. Like it's a whole journey. But that's the press kit's fault. That's not your fault. That's one of the benefits of having a publisher, man. Like they don't know everything about your game, and they sometimes get stuff wrong. But it's okay. Yeah. So the reason why we was the question, why did we choose Busan?
What? Why you already explained the location of South Korea,
Mhm.
but the meteor impact, like,
Oh, the meteor.
yeah,
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 yeah. Sorry, I kind of talked and I forget what the question even was. Okay, so the meteor. Yeah, so we wanted to do something that had enough um enough looseness that we could kind of spin off whatever we want from it. So the meteor impact to me felt like a good way to get to a point. We wanted a point where, classic survival horror, everyone's dead, there's no survivors, and something catastrophic has happened, right? In Resident Evil's case, it's a virus. In Silent Hill's case, it's a demonic town. And we wanted our own thing. And the meteor allows us to do a whole bunch of things, right? So we can have a mixture of post-apocalyptic, right at the point of the impact, everything's destroyed, right? Then you have this spreading out of things get less and less and less destroyed. So you have this kind of, as you journey through the country, it gets more and more and more destroyed. And that kind of ties in quite nicely to the story as well.
yeah,
And it being a meteor impact also allows us to be a little bit uh, I don't want to spoil the story, but it
yeah, yeah,
allows us a lot of narrative freedom, I would
yeah.
say. Um, yeah, it's a mixture of. I don't think a meteor impact's been done in a horror game before. I mean, you tell me. You're the historian here, but
It has been done. It has been done.
oh damn.
I think. But I'm trying to remember, but I think not in a survival horror game,
Hmm,
which is
maybe
interesting.
not.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, but I've seen it. We've seen I think Final Fantasy built on it. Uh,
Okay.
yeah, but it's and there's other games too. But
Yeah.
it's an interesting thing. Like the way my mind goes places. Like you just gave me that description about how it gives you freedom, and I start like going.
Yeah. Exactly. Things spread from it.
Yeah.
So it's a whole thing. There's a whole thing. Yeah.
How did you balance? And I think you kind of like went through it, but how do you balance paying homage to that retro survival horror mechanics and vibe with the modern design sensibilities?
Yeah, so a lot of it is it's either gameplay influencing level design or the inverse, level design
Okay.
influencing gameplay, right? So it's a mixture of both. We have our environments are they're huge, they're massive. The first kind of area in Busan you go through the beach and through a town, and you see a lighthouse in the distance. I'm not sure how much we've shown in terms of the scale, but it really is massive. And therefore, it's not like a cramped. Let's take Resident Evil 1, right? That is very tight corridors, very isolated rooms, and that's going to dictate how the gameplay feels, right?
Yep.
Um, for us, this is an example of where the level design influenced the gameplay. We felt like we could do a little bit more with a few more enemies, and therefore it necessitated a little bit more movement options. Um, I didn't want to artificially limit people. So you can still move while you aim a gun, although you're like a little bit less constrained. Um, in a way that it made people who are new to the genre feel a little bit more comfortable with some of the staples. Um, and in a way that also kind of struck that balance between, yeah, this is a survival horror starting point, but yeah, it's a whole thing. It's a whole thing. And then when it comes to the other way around of the game design influencing the level design, once we'd locked in, it actually took us a while to lock in our kind of movement mechanics, our combat mechanics. The later on chapters, we started building the chapters around those locked in mechanics. So it kind of flipped a little bit. So the PlayStation, for example, we call that like a major area, right? we have minor areas and major areas. A major area is like the entirety of the police station. A minor area might be some side streets. We wanted to evoke like a feeling from perhaps different kind of games for each area. So the university, without spoiling too much, has a kind of Dino Crisis feel. The police station has a Resident Evil 2 kind of feel. The streets have a Resident Evil 3 kind of feel. And those who are familiar with the genre might assume what that could entail. So we also planned our mechanics around that so that it constantly feels like it's a little bit different each area. Does that make sense? Like it's refreshing itself
sure.
a little bit. Yeah. Long answer for
No,
I
but
don't know, man.
it's
It
good.
depends.
It's good because the whole intention about it is like, the audience, they get a glimpse of what they could expect from the game, and I think you're doing super. So another thing, the game features two protagonists. Am I right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Correct,
so it's Sioyeon and Evan.
Yeah,
How do
exactly.
you approach structuring their narrative and their relationship in the game without spoiling anything?
Yeah, so we have the classic kind of evolution of their character. So Sion is very by the books, straight laced. She wants to do everything by the rules. Evan is an older guy. He's a little bit less serious, and he's a little bit more loose with the way he does things. He kind of has that like I've done 100 missions before. I know what I'm doing. Therefore, I can chill out a little bit. And she's younger. She's 28, so she's a little bit more. Even though she's special forces, she's not as perhaps jaded is the word.
Yeah.
So they have that. They kind of annoy each other at the start, and they have to learn to trust each other throughout the game. And various events transpire that means they kind of their personalities come into clash with each other, and one person thinks one thing, another person thinks another thing, and they have to resolve that. And then there's a few spanners in the works along the way. Like it's not just those two driving the narrative.
Yep.
There's HQ, who Sion is speaking to, her Korean HQ. So she's a Korean soldier. Evan is a Canadian soldier. So they both got their own like kind of management structures. Then there's some other characters which I don't think we've revealed yet that kind of throw things into the mix a little bit further. So it's all about like how they react to the environment and how they react to other characters and how they react to the orders they've been given in the world. And being that they're kind of opposite people, there's a little bit of conflict there. So that was like the primary driver of wanting to ensure that they're not just two people on the same page, right? They need to have some form of like disagreements and like different ways of thinking about things. So that drives the whole story forward, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes total sense. When it comes to mutated creatures and strange growths, we may say, how do you design monsters that feel unique and maybe not derivative?
Yeah. So this kind of ties back to the meteor impact and the freedom it gives us. So what I can say is that a lot of the monsters are based on what's come from the meteor being like a mindless kind of thing that's looking for any form of DNA. So then, therefore, that drives what the monsters might be in the location. So there's the guys we call the calamari men. They have like kind of octopus faces where like their teeth and mouth is split open. And there's like tentacles coming out, and they have like tentacle arms. That's because they're in a like a wet market area in Busan where there's a lot of squid DNA, octopus DNA. And then later on, we have shown that the T Rex. It's not a spoiler. We've shown it. There's a
Yeah.
there's a T Rex in the game, but it's built out of the flesh of like many dead animals. There's like an elephant trunk in there. There's like a bit of giraffe skin. There's a human arm coming out of it. So it's made out of meat, right? Any meat that it finds. So we tried to combine things in a way that's not like it's fulfilling a narrative purpose, and it is kind of doing a little bit of world building as well, right? Like environmental storytelling.
Okay.
So the T-Rex, for example, we can conclude that probably whatever took all that flesh and stuff probably raided a nearby zoo because there's like giraffes and elephants and stuff. So you got like a little bit of world building there. So we tried to do it that way. We showed another monster. This we call it Maggot Man. We actually don't have any like proper official names for things. It's like Calamari Man, Maggot Man, Tool Man. Maggot Man. There's like a little narrative around like kind of there's a dead body in a basement and maggots were all over it, and then the DNA of that got absorbed, and it's kind of a mixture of a maggot and a man. So
This
you
is
know, it's
great.
just that really. Yeah, it's just thinking like, okay, if something was like grabbing DNA from all around, right? What scenarios would there be
Yeah.
to make this monster? There's another one that's like a giant dog. It's a pack of dogs, right? A wild pack of dogs that's all been merged into one. So again, it's a little bit of environmental storytelling. Like a little pack has fortunately succumbed and been taken over.
I love it
That's our
because
philosophy.
I love this because it's one of the pillars of the whole thing. Unfortunately, back then when Resident Evil 1 was created, I think that's a huge thing about Resident Evil that started, defined the genre. It's that they were dealing with so much limitations, on
Yeah.
the system they were building, but they came up with this huge thing that's still making echoes on 2025. And
Hmm.
and sometimes we forget that less is more. The more
Hmm.
simple an idea can be, and then it just becomes super elaborate, But the idea is super simple, and I love it because it's something I appreciate a lot all the time. Even the Silent Hill idea, it's simple in its core. So,
Yeah.
James, what do you want players to feel while playing Ground Zero, and what systems, if you can call it like that, have you made up to support those emotions?
Yeah, I touched on it a little bit earlier. I want players to feel primarily fun and fear, but I also want people to feel a sense of familiar yet different. You see something that it's not just like here is a reference to Jill sandwich or whatever. Like I
Yeah.
want it to feel more deeper than that. Like, oh, this gives me the feeling I felt when I played Dino Crisis. This gives me the feeling I felt when I played Silent Hill for the first time. So I want like this an evocation of like all these different feelings that never really stay static for a long time. I don't want to say this is like Resident Evil 1 and the game will proceed to be like Resident Evil 1 for the rest of the game, right? Like there's a little bit that's like 1 second, sorry. Okay, shouting outside. I just wanted to make sure my dog hadn't escaped. Um, yeah, there's like some things to Metal Gear Solid, and if it gives players the feeling that it gives me of like um, those positive, I mean, nostalgia, I suppose,
Yeah.
is this word for it. Then yeah, I want people to feel that, and I also want people to feel like they have experienced something unique from that. It's nostalgia, but it does something unique with it. And I want people to feel like it's its own thing. It stands on its own 2 feet.
Were were there any scope or resource challenges that force you to make any big compromises or changes during development?
Scope. I'm really bad for overscoping. The game is absolutely massive. Like it's a huge game. I So if anything, the scope is probably that I push the team too hard to do things. That we have like a mercenaries mode because I'm motivated
Oh,
a little bit by spite, right?
yeah.
RE3 remake came out. I was like, man, they didn't even fucking do mercenaries.
Yep.
Mercenaries. We should do mercenaries. And then
That's
some
great.
other bits and other games came out where it's like I felt like they were lacking a little bit, and I was like, we should do that. We're a small team, but we can do it. Um, I think we did cut a few things in development. I think one of the issues was we felt like some of our levels might have been a bit too large, and we came up with some mitigations for that. And one of the problems was that I had such. So I have a day job, right?
Mhm.
The rest of the team works, 9 to 5, but during the day I am working somewhere else. So I unfortunately can't give the team the kind of attention they sometimes need, and therefore my instructions can come off a little bit vague, and then that can lead to like, oh man, the level's a little bit too big here, or that kind of stuff. So I would say the biggest problem is that me not being able to give the attention to the team they need. So scope, we can overscope a little bit in terms of level size and things like that. There's a few monsters we cut. I think there's some features that I half implemented that never finished its cut, but maybe we'll bring it back for DLC. The
Mhm.
problem is I just want to do everything. Like I get inspired by so many things. I'm like, we should add that. We should add that. We should add that. I'm one of the worst people. Like this is my personality is one of the most destructive personalities for like getting a game shipped. Like
Ship.
it's not good. I'm a scope creeper.
That's you sound like Joe. Um yeah, I can oh my god. I can relate with that. I start
Yeah.
it's not I think the neurodivergent doesn't help.
Mhm.
Sometimes I'm hyper focus on getting something done, and it's coming out great, and everyone is like, "Oh, Joe, this is great," and then I'm like, "Oh,
Yeah.
look, a bird. I want that bird
Yeah.
here, and now I need to
Yeah.
redo the whole thing just to put the bird in there." And sometimes
Yeah.
when I put the bird in there, it's like, "Ah, I don't like it. Let's go back." Uh,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
yeah, how can you walk us through a typical gameplay segment for exploration, to puzzle
Mhm.
solving to combat? How do you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so if we take a major area like the police station, what we
Mhm.
tend to do is that we lock off a certain section and we try to introduce a hub to that area. So in the police station, there's a main office. In Resident Evil 2, it would be the main hall, the RPD main hall. And we take that hub and then we branch off the player a little bit, right? So we usually introduce not more than 3 things to mentally keep track of. In the police station, I think one of the first things you're told to do is find 3 pieces of information for a computer system. So, okay, got it. 3 things. I need 3 things. And then the ground floor is locked up. Oh, sorry, the upper floor is locked up, right? So you just got the ground floor to explore. There'll be a little bit of combat there. You have some enemies. We might introduce a boss early, like give hints to the boss, and then once you've completed that kind of those 3 objectives, then the next area is unlocked. But you still have that hub as your kind of grounding point,
Yeah.
right? And then the intensity will ramp up more and more. There'll be more monsters, let's say upstairs, more puzzles. You branch off slightly further. So we gradually and carefully introduce that to the player for each major section, so that it doesn't feel like you're overwhelmed immediately, right? You're not given like 100 doors, 100 routes, 100 tasks, a million enemies. Um, so we try to treat each major area as like, if this was a standalone game that only took place in this section, how would we handle this, like
Okay. Yeah.
pacing wise? And then we try to do puzzles, like I said, where we don't give people a ton of stuff to keep track of, just a few things to keep track of mentally. Once that's done, you put them onto the next area. But then uh, we try to also reward those who pay attention, right? So the PlayStation is a good example of this. Once you beat the game, once you beat the PlayStation, you're given like a level 3 key card. We Once you've beaten the boss, you can actually go back inside the police station with that level 3 key card. And if you remembered, I did actually see those doors I never went into before the boss. If I go back
Mhm.
inside, you'll get your reward. There's like a whole new area for you to explore. There's actually a hidden weapon for you to find. Um, so we tried to like, and then it will go back into the minor areas, the streets, where we try to maintain like a relatively calm pace, like not a variable sense of pacing, right? So it's like a reasonable amount of monsters and that kind of stuff. Does that make sense?
Yeah. It's that's perfect, bro.
Yeah.
I think. Well, Ground Zero. Now that that sounds like a lot of what I like. I love puzzles and backtracking. That's my thing.
Mhm.
Um, will you feature branching paths, multiple endings,
Yes.
or maybe replay? Well, you already mentioned a replay incentive there, but it will
Yeah.
have multiple endings.
Yeah, it has multiple endings. It has branching paths. So the police station that I mentioned before, if you go to the police station, there's a section where Sayan is blocked by something. She's like, "Damn, I can't get past here." She phones Evan. And Evan's like, "Well, in the hospital, you could get some chemicals and dissolve the thing blocking your way, right? Or you go to the police station just next door and get some explosives and blow it up and clear the way that way." Then you get a pop up saying, "Which way do you want to go?" If you pick the hospital, that's like 2 or 3 hours, depending on how fast you go, of unique content. It's its own environment, its own enemies, like unique enemies, unique boss, unique music, unique weapons.
Wow.
And the police station is a separate thing. I told you I'm not going to over scope.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
I really, um, and there are, I think it's 3 sections. You're presented that have this choice. There's an amusement park on the beach, which we show a little bit. The hospital and the police station, which we show a little bit, and some other areas which we haven't showed yet. And again, it's like completely different environments. And then the endings. There's different endings. I don't want to spoil how you achieve them or anything, but yes, there's different endings. And then there's New Game Plus, where we've got like a ton of unlockable weapons. You get a grade at the end, right? Which is a classic. You want to get that S plus rank, of course, but that's going to determine what you unlock. So there's unlockable costumes, unlockable weapons, multiple endings, branching paths. Like if you pick the hospital, you can't go to the police station in that run through. You have to play again to see the police station if you want to do that. So yeah, it's then you got mercenaries on top of it, which is like it's a whole separate thing. We call ours Apocalypse Crisis, but it's the DNA of mercenaries. You jump out of a C-130 plane and you
I think
gun
this
down.
answers like the guys from La Boya are always like, hey, do you have an update on Ground Zero? Hey, do you have an update on Ground Zero? When's it coming out? When's it coming out? And I'm like, I think this answers the question to a lot of guys. So I think it's gonna be worth the wait. Did
I
you
hope so.
did you incorporate this just came out specific like Korean cultural or geographic elements and how do you research them?
Yeah, so two people on that team are Korean. That's
Okay.
Christine, the voice actress, and Jamie, the one of the musicians. So we have a lot of questions for them. The areas in the beginning, it's based on a village called Kamcheon Cultural Village. So there is elements of that infused into the level design. It's like a super compressed version of it. So they have like it's a really cultural, it's a really like colorful place. If you see it in Google Maps or whatever, if you're lucky to see it in real life, it's like this huge like hill covered in these like really colorful houses,
Yeah.
and have this mural that's quite unique. And so we infuse like the um the flavor of it, into the area.
Yeah.
The costume that Sion wears is a little bit inspired by Korean costume, but remixed to be kind of retro futurism. So the '90s idea of what the future might look like. There is some. Jamie did some. She recorded a monk actually when she lives in the States, but she's from Korea and she goes back sometimes. She recorded a monk there, so in some of the music she used some of the recordings for that. So there's some music in there as well. And Sion herself, because she is Korean, she speaks Korean to her HQ, but then she speaks English to Evan. So we have that kind of
That's
multilingual
great.
thing going on there. Yeah, I've heard for streamers, it's not always not the best thing to have non-English voice acting, but I think for me it's important to like, well, she is, of course, she's going to speak Korean. Like she's speaking to her HQ. Like
Yeah.
they don't speak English. They're both Korean. So yeah, it's quite a healthy mixture. And then as you travel through the country, we start to like. I'd say Kamcheon is the most like direct analog of the real life place,
Yep.
and then later on we'll relax that a little bit, and then it becomes more like multiple things from multiple different cities blended into one. And that's simply just for like gameplay reasons. Like it's a little bit easier to take a tower from, I don't know, Seoul and put it in Daejeon instead, just because it's, like I said, easier for gameplay. But yeah, there's a lot in there.
How do you see Ground Zero standing out in today's indie horror landscape?
I think scope is one of those things. I want it to feel like a lost AAA game from the 90s or early
Hmm.
2000s, more likely. So that, I think the environments are quite beautiful. That's Nathan and Pratik work on those. So we kind of avoid a lot of like kind of tropes of horror. We actually make our levels quite colorful. We use a lot of colored lights and stuff. So I think that should stand out. The visuals are quite striking. Like I said, the scope, it's a very long and big and complex game. I think the characters as well, they're all fully motion captured, fully voice acted. I want to shout out Christine and Evan. Evan is actually the voice actor from Brad Vickers from RE3. He
Oh,
streams.
great.
Yeah, he's back. So yeah, I think that general feeling of like uh, large scale, I hope should make it stand out. Scale and polish.
Okay. Oh, interesting. Um, yeah, the actor from Brad Beaker streams. I've seen him. I've seen him around. That's interesting. That's great.
He's a
That's
great
a
guy.
you got a
Yeah,
piece of history there.
yeah, exactly.
What platforms and release window are you aiming for?
So that's one for the publisher to answer. I don't get to answer those questions, unfortunately. They do the hard things. So
Ground Zero exceeds your expectations, and what's next for Malformation Games?
So there was this horror game, the multiplayer game we were making back in the day, and when we were pitching around for funding, everyone was kind of interested in it, but
Yeah.
no one committed. And I always get people who from the conversations back then, when are you going to work on this? When are you going to work on this? I'm like, man, you didn't fund us the first time. Why do you care now? I kind of want to go back to it because it was so cool. But we have another idea. We're kind of putting together already, actually. And this one is going to be more like folk tale, like horror
Yeah.
oriented. Um, I can't reveal too many details yet because if I end up changing my mind, then I look stupid, and you know.
Don't worry, man.
But what I want to be fully able to do whatever we as a company want. Right? I have no interest in like growing to ridiculous sizes. I want to keep the team quite small and cozy, and I want to build more horror content. I want to build the games that I was always wanted to build as a kid, but I also want my employees to have the opportunity to feel like they're building something that they want to build as well. So maybe we'll go back to that multiplayer game. It was kind of cool. The only problem is Ground Zero has taken so long. Every idea we've had, someone else has done it already in the time it took. So we'll see.
Brilliant mind thinks alike. That's always
Yeah,
the
exactly.
thing. What
Yeah.
advice would you give any indie devs out there trying to create a survival horror experience?
I would say scope realistically. Don't be like me and like want to do everything, because you will shoot yourself in the foot if you do that. Keep it small, keep it focused, and make something really small just for yourself first. Get familiar with every single area, and that includes boring stuff like marketing. I hate marketing. Like I should really do it more, but localization, UI, learn every single like trap. It's not just making art and making code. Like there is so much more to it than that. You must figure out like, okay, how do I market this thing? How do I, if you want to release on consoles, what does that actually mean? Right? There's a whole certification process you have to follow. You need dev kits, you need all sorts. Learn about UI, learn about gamepad, and how that works. Because that tripped me up. I built like most of the UI for mouse and keyboard only, and I was like, well, fuck, I want to actually support gamepad. So
Yep.
I had to go back and redo it, and that ruined my life. Localization is another thing. If you want to localize it, make sure you have a system built early. Like just don't jump headfirst into do all the fun things. Think about all the boring things as well, and start small, 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 small.
Are you planning to release in platforms on other platforms than PC or?
That's also one for the publisher.
Okay.
In my perspective, I'm happy for any platform at all. Like I'm not, you know,
Yeah.
anything is great. So we'll see what they say.
I think in 3 words, how would you describe the experience of Ground Zero?
Really damn fun.
Really damn fun.
Way too
That's
big.
great. And finally, where can our listeners support the project and follow your journey?
Yeah. So we have 2 Twitter profiles. This slash malformation AB.
Yeah.
And then the other one, which I should know off the top of my head, but I'm just going to keep talking until I find the link and pretend like I do know off the top of my head. So that is the profile that the publisher made. I think it's ground zero underscore game. Man, I should know these things off the top of my head. Yes, ground zero underscore game.
Okay.
That's the publisher one, and then Malformation AB is more like our company one.
I'm gonna put those links down for the guys that are interested to go and follow these guys. This project is, for me, is one of those promises within the genre, so we're super excited to have you. And now let's jump. We're getting to that final stretch where we're gonna jump into that quick moment. Our questions are never answers quick. What's the
I'll try.
first horror game that you played?
Resident Evil 1, I think.
Resident Evil 1. Fixed camera or over the shoulder?
Fixed.
Thanks. One horror movie that perfectly captures the vibe of Ground Zero. these questions. I don't know what happened to me.
Damn, that's a hard one. Movie? I don't know. Like,
A vibe, a scene, something that when you see it in a movie, you see, oh yeah, I think about the game that I'm working on.
I wanted to say Train to Busan, but that's so like action packed. Like, it's really nothing like the gameplay,
Yeah,
but it has that journey, that feeling of like Korean journey.
Train to Busan is such a great movie.
It's a great movie. It's a fantastic movie, but it's so fast paced compared
Oh
to
yeah,
Ground Zero. But yeah, that vibe of like being in danger and going on a long journey. Yeah,
yeah.
maybe Train to Busan.
If you could add one dream cameo monster from a horror history or game into Ground Zero, who would that be?
You know what? I really like the final boss from Silent Hill 1, Incubus. Even though it's a demon and it's got nothing to do with Ground Zero, I just love that design and I love everything it brings. So maybe that, like a secret section where you have to fight Incubus, that would be cool.
That would be great.
Yeah.
James, I want to thank you for coming into La Bóveda podcast. This has been fun as hell. I
Thank you, Joe.
really hope that you guys get all the the success you guys deserve. You've been working super hard on this game. So
Thank
if you anything you want to say to the audience, the microphone is yours.
Yeah. Please check out our game, but also check out other people's games. There's some fantastic indie games out there. You've interviewed a bunch of people with fantastic indie games. Um, give every indie horror game you can a chance, because right now there's this weird thing going on in the games industry with games coming out kind of undercooked and overpriced, and there's just great stuff going on in the indie scene. So
Yes.
please, no matter like how like low graphics or whatever it is, give it a chance and support indie developers.
Yes. Guys, and just to build on that, when we stand here in La Bóveda podcast, and that's one of the things that we created the podcast. When we started, we felt like there was not a specific outlet to the genre per se that the devs can come in to give the information to the audience and maybe like make that grounding or startup feel if you're gonna decide to buy into a game or not. At the end of the day, I think it's working out great, and I want to thank every single one of the persons, including James, that came in here today that has supported this. We're gonna keep on going. So if you're a dev out there, you're working on a game, and you think, no, this game is too small, they probably won't have me in, which would happen this week. Somebody actually wrote that. No, we're gonna talk to you. It doesn't matter what you're doing. If you're doing a survival horror, psychological horror game, we're gonna talk to you, and we're gonna try to help out in the best way we can. So James,
Nice.
thanks again. I hope
Thank you.
you guys, this becomes everything you ever wanted it to be. And to the people watching, go down there in the links, wishlist the game, and follow these people so you're on it. Guys,
Thank you so much.
until the next time. Thanks, James.
Bye bye.